Silverstein Davis, and this is my very first YouTube video, sort of, maybe in like the last 10 years. Welcome to the Syncopa podcast channel on YouTube. Hello. I hope that everyone is having a beautiful day. It is Saturday, June 27th, I believe. 4th of July is right around the corner. I apologize in advance for all the noise and the very empty sound. I don't have much furniture yet. You're pretty much looking at it. But I've been procrastinating with all the right reasons for a very long time, and I just want to not procrastinate anymore. So sorry, it's gonna be a little messy. Totally open to any help. Anybody want to give you suggestions? I know that. Sorry, I'm turning on my do not disturb right now. I know that I really got distracted by that. That's why the do not disturb is on. Oh, I was saying I know that a few people have been waiting for this. I actually made a post once and then deleted it because imposter syndrome, to be honest. But yeah, no more excuses. So let me just dive right in. As I said again, or as I said before, my name is Silverstein Davis. Most people who know me personally call me Silver. You can call me Silver. Hi. Hey, nice to meet you. Hi. What's up, Mom? Just kidding. She probably won't watch this. I came up with this podcast, the Syncopa podcast, as a place to talk about childhood trauma. I'm holding my computer here because it has like some notes in it, so I can kind of stay on track. Actually, I'm gonna try my best to edit the really crappy stuff out. But also I have no editing skills yet, so I might not at all edit anything, and I might just upload this raw and uncut and edit it in the future when I gain some skills. So yeah, I think the first question people would ask is, why childhood trauma? Why not just trauma? Well, because childhood trauma is unique in its trauma that happened before a person's brain and body are fully developed. So the body adapts in ways that it would not adapt had whatever traumatic occurrences happened in the fully developed or adult state. Sorry, I'm trying my best not to move around in this chair because I know that it makes noise. Sorry. Let me start with the definition. So, childhood trauma. Oh wait, I guess I already gave that definition. It's any traumatic experience that happened while you were a child. The synonym for it, kind of, in like the psychology and pediatric world, is toxic stress. So a definition for toxic stress would be having elevated cortisol and other stress hormones that kind of get stuck in a loop in the body because it happens during developmental years. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. So I know that a lot of you have already heard of ACEs, but I also know that a lot of you have not heard of ACEs, so I want to kind of talk about ACEs and what ACEs are. So ACE stands for Adverse Childhood Experience, and the term was coined in 97-ish by a couple of doctors who performed a study on about almost 18,000 adult participants. The median age was 55, on their adverse childhood experiences and how it affected them as adults. So let me give you some background on the study. So this doctor from Kaiser, the scientist from Kaiser Permanente had Kaiser Permanente was involved, but it started with a scientist from the CDC. And he had a weight loss program study that he was working on. And he was finding that people who were successful in the study within like a year or two would gain all their weight back, and like this is dramatic weight loss stories. So he, in his scientific mind, wanted to find out, why is this? And apparently it was a bit of a slip of the tongue where he asked one of his female patients, how much did you weigh when you became sexually active? And he meant to ask how old she was, because he was just trying to gather more background information as to why this particular patient had significant weight loss success, but then like basically gained all the weight that she lost back in a short amount of time, like as soon as she exited the program. And her answer to the question that he accidentally asked her, how much did you weigh when you first started having sex, was like 20 pounds. So it turned out that she was a child, like 3 years old, when her father started molesting her. This piqued his curiosity, it shocked him. And then out of all the other patients, he decided to include that with his questionnaire to find out why they were having repeat failures in their weight loss stories. So he found that this was actually a pattern. There were many people, mostly women, but also men, who cited some type of trauma in their childhood. So he started to think, is there a correlation? He did a study. He had like 2,000 participants in his study, and he asked all of them. He found all these correlations. He presented it amongst the scientific community at that time. That was like 95, and said, so basically the weight loss, he basically came to the conclusion from his study that the weight gain had become some sort of protective response for the body to maybe be less attractive or something, or just something changed because the trauma was happening in the developmental stage. And when he presented his findings that his patients who experienced trauma as children had higher risk of obviously everything associated with obesity and then other life-threatening sicknesses like heart disease, diabetes, they basically laughed at him. They said, that's not realistic. No one's gonna believe you. But one guy from Kaiser Permanente was like, let's delve into this. Let's find out like if you have some basis here, because if this is true, this is huge. Because we're talking like the top, butterfly. I have no attention span. We're talking the top 7 common causes of death in the US. So Kaiser, they had the money and the people, the patients to study. They asked like 20,000 patients. Out of 20,000, nearly 18,000 agreed to do this study. And basically they were asked a questionnaire of 10 questions. You can actually answer these questions yourself. And the questionnaire was the ACE questionnaire, the Adverse Childhood Experience Questionnaire. And it was 10 questions, and for each yes, you get a point. So what they found out was 70% of the people in this study had at least one. Now I gotta look at my notes because I don't want to give the wrong numbers and statistics. 20% of the study, 20% of the people in the study had 3 or more ACEs. Oh, okay, yeah. And what they also found was there was a correlation between more points in the study and higher risk of disease and mental and physical health issues. So I feel like when people hear that, the first thing that they think is, well, obviously, if you had traumatic experiences as a child, you probably had negative influences, poor caretakers around you, so you would obviously start some bad habits like smoking, drinking, drug addiction. You know, you're probably gonna have mental health issues, and that's just because that's the environment you grew up. So here's the kicker: for each ACE, it's basically like times that. One ACE, you're 100 times more likely. 2 ACEs, you're 200 times more likely. 7, you're 700 times. It's 7 times, okay? If you abstain from smoking, drinking, doing anything negative to your body, the results were only cut by 50%. Now I'm just gonna rattle off some statistics to you. They sound shocking. They sound dramatically inflated. The unfortunate truth is these are the numbers. And then let me sorry if I'm not taking enough time really explaining this. Please ask questions and I'll get back to you. The truth is I've done this video like 1 billion times and deleted it. And I've talked about this so much that I'm kind of like skimming over things instead of being more detailed because I'm just tired of talking about it. My butterfly is still out there. Yeah, so sorry, I'm trying to like be detailed for the people who might not have heard of this before. But yeah, let me just rattle off some statistics for you. Oh, I was gonna say, since that study that concluded in '97, we have studied this study on a global scale. There have been one study that involves over 90,000 kids from 20 different continents. Pretty much when Kaiser finally released this, and it was like released in the medical journals, and they were like, yeah, this is legit. You basically, the end verdict is if you've experienced 3 or more ACEs compared to someone with 0, your life is literally shortened by 20 years. I'll get into why in a second, but here are the statistics. So we're talking for people who have 3 or more ACEs. You are twice as likely to die from heart disease. You are twice as likely to develop cancer. You're 1.5 times more likely to develop diabetes. You have a 30% higher chance of suicide, a 70% chance of mental health, emotional, or psychological issues. And like I said before, that is excluding whether if you ever never smoked or drink or involve yourself in destructive behavior. So if you have involved yourself with like cigarettes or alcohol, excessive alcohol consumption, you can times that by 0.5, by 2, it's 50% increase, okay? Do the math. So yeah, those are like alarming numbers. I hear like doctors and psychiatrists and people in the medical field who talk about it say how if this was any other thing, like some cheese product, if we found out that American cheese, children who were fed American cheese were 70% more likely to have mental health or emotional health issues, 30% more likely to have suicide, 70% more likely to develop cancer, diabetes, we would outlaw American cheese. Like, it just would not exist. By the way, American cheese is not great for you health-wise. But anyway, that's not my point. My point is, childhood trauma kills. It's literally, it actually now it is actually considered a health problem, and we have not been very quick about developing ways to address it, but there has been a lot of changes since this study became popular in the scientific and health community. So why does having adverse childhood experiences create so many problems for you as you age? So I don't know if I mentioned it before, but the reason is because, I'll just make the long story short. It engages your fight or flight. Being traumatized engages your fight or flight response systems. And when your body is still developing, your brain and your body are still developing, it tends to normalize the influxes of the chemical responses, and it goes from being, what is the word? What is the word for like, when it's good for you? It goes from being, let's see if I have the word in my notes. Sorry, I get a little nervous on camera. Let me see if I can just think about it. I feel like people are looking at me. Stop looking at me, you're making me nervous. I got it. It goes from being adaptive, which is the normal way, to being maladaptive, which means it starts to harm you. Pardon the noise, I need to adjust. I know. Sorry. Okay. I'll do the next video. I'll do in my room. I spent all this time setting up this little setup, and I don't have like a tripod or anything, and I'm using my phone. It's like being held up by random things, and I just don't want to redo this somewhere else. So please bear with me. Sorry if you can hear the airplane. I was hoping my AirPods would communicate a little bit of that, but anyways, I don't know. We'll see. So there's a lot of chemical systems and a lot of big scientific words that I know and have written down, but I kind of want to keep it really simple. So let's talk about the fight or flight response system. So basically, you're walking along, I don't know, a tiger jumps out at you, it's scary, your heart starts beating, your blood vessels dilate, your brain shuts down certain parts, like the common sense part. There's actually a long name for that, but basically the part that says don't fight the lion or tiger or whatever we just encountered, because you might have to fight it, so it shuts down that part. And then it increases your glucose and sends sugar and blood rushing to your like arms and legs, because you're either about to like run for your life or possibly fight to the death. But the system is in place to keep you alive. So technically, it's a really awesome system that keeps you alive in the event you come across a really dangerous adversary that you have to either fight or run away from. So it's this huge, complicated chemical process that happens in the body. So one doctor who is now the, what the heck? Nadine Burke. She is now the head of like, I'm gonna Google it because I don't wanna mess her up. She's awesome. She actually spearheaded a lot of the, she made that 90s Kaiser Permanente study popular. And yeah, she's a Surgeon General in California. I want to mess her job title, because that's where she's at now. She's now the Surgeon General in California, and well, butterfly's gone, but now there's a really weird creature here. I don't know if I'm going to edit these random things out. Bear with me. Thank you, I appreciate it. So She put it this way: when you come in contact with a bear in the woods, all these systems are engaged. But what happens when the bear comes home every night? Obviously, those systems are engaged. So to take a really complicated thing and make it really simple, the fight or flight chemical, it's a lot of freaking chemicals. I mean, I can throw some words out, but hypothalamic, pituitary, adrenaline glands, it has to do with the cognitive and executive functions. It's a lot of words that I don't want to talk over people's head. I want kids to be able to understand what's happening. So when you are going into a fight or flight mode, naturally, after the danger has surpassed, things return to normal. The chemicals feed back into their receptors in your brain and your body. But when the fight or flight system is constantly re-engaged while you're in a developmental stage, when, just so you know, we're like developing from like birth to 20s, give or take a few years. Scientifically, they say birth to 17. That's considered childhood. But the brain is actually still developing after our 20s. But anyways, when you're in this developmental stage where your brain and your body and your immune system and everything is still developing, it adapts to having these constant influxes of these chemicals in your body, these stress chemicals. And what it does is it throws off your immune system. Also, it's normal for, as people age, for the cells to break down. That is from stress, the stress of regular use. Your knees and your elbows and hands, things get weaker the more you use them. People who use their hands a lot discover that as they get older, hand things can often happen, you know, like arthritis and stuff like that. And that's the normal degrading of the cells. That is part of those chemicals that are always present, but during fight or flight are extremely pumping through your body. So when that happens, your cells degrade so much faster, like way faster. That is why people who have survived childhood trauma can find themselves having degenerative bone disease in like 30s or even younger, like before it would normally be a thing. One thing that also happens is your body turns on the inflammation response system, just in case the tiger claws you, then it can close up that blood bleeding and stop it as fast as possible so that you can like not bleed out before you get a chance to fight or run to safety. So that is often turns into chronic pain in adults who have experienced childhood trauma, it's just crazy that so many negative things, like 7 of the top 10 leading causes of death in the US and the world are directly related to having multiple traumatic experiences during your developmental year or as a child. Every part of the brain is affected. The hippocampus, the amygdala thing. Okay, sorry if I'm not perfect. For all you scientists out there, feel free to correct me in the comments so that we can educate everyone. I'm an each one teach one type of person. Yeah, so that whole survival mechanism, that's your stress response, can be, like I said, maladaptive or harmful to you when it happens at a young age. But there's hope. Recent studies have found that there are ways to counter the negative impacts. Obviously, with any type of disease or injury, the earlier you catch it, the better. So like, if you can catch it in a child who's in the process of experiencing ACEs, you have a better chance of elongating their life. Remember, 20 years off of your life expectancy. That's not an inflated number. That's the median. That's what science has showed us. You will live 20 years less. And also, if you're already an adult, if you already know like, oh, that's the reason I got back pain all this time, and that's the reason why I'm depressed all the time, it's not too late to start mitigating and reversing that. And it's so crazy what science figured out reverses it. I know you've probably heard that drugs like MDMA or ecstasy or like mushrooms or psilocybin have been used to treat like chronic depression and PTSD. Those chemicals already exist in our bodies. Just taking those drugs forces our body to produce a lot of it. Apparently, what is the MDMA chemical? Sorry, when I'm talking to my camera, everything goes out of my head. And next time I promise I'll take better notes. Promise you that each video is going to get better, not worse. Someone out there is shouting it, shout it louder. What is it called? It's the love chemical. Anyways, that chemical acts as like a coat or a buffer between trauma, between the negative chemicals, and helps to, how would you say, heal the neurotransmitters faster. They recover faster, that's the word I was looking for. Sorry. I'm gonna include Nadine Harris's TED Talk to this video. It's only like 15 minutes and she does a much better job of explaining this. But that is, in a big nutshell, why I chose to focus on childhood trauma. Also, I'm a survivor of childhood trauma. The reason I say survivor is because statistically, like 20% of Black children do not survive childhood. Let me see, I actually have some statistics here. And I want to see if I put them in my notes. I guess they're not here. I think they're over there on my phone. I can't reach them. I just don't want to give the wrong statistics. But actually, I'll also include a really good article about the statistics on specifically children of color. As you can guess, these numbers are worse in communities of color. But often because the resources are not available to us to have the bounce back or the recovery. And just to note, that Kaiser Permanente study was done in San Diego, where I used to live, and that's paradise, don't argue with me. And it was all people who had already had Kaiser Permanente insurance. They were 75% white, and the rest of the ethnic makeup was Asian and Spanish, and a slim portion were African American. So those original numbers, which are very similar to the numbers that we've now gathered after we spread this research worldwide, are to, well, everyone was college educated, everyone had a good job and good insurance, and they were affording to live in San Diego. So this is the statistics for healthy white men. Well, supposedly healthy, but like people who we look at and think they've had it good in life. And so we can say that now, after so many more years of studies, that in comparison, it's actually, unfortunately, worse in the communities of color or marginalized communities. I think I'm good, honestly. I really want to delete this video and not ever do this again because it's really uncomfortable. I have sweat stains. But I'm just gonna I'm gonna post it because I need to get over myself. And I want to leave you with this. This is a lot of people say that if trauma happens to a child, they can bounce back quicker. Like negative experiences, traumatic experience, they're only 2, they don't know what's going on. But that is not true. We are born with the system to protect ourselves, this fight or flight system. Even witnessing somebody yelling can activate that system. Just witnessing it, not even being able to speak, infants can have this system going on. Even infants can get stuck in the phase where the system, the fight or flight system, does not turn off. So that is a myth. That kids bounce back is false. I've heard stories of people who have high ACE scores, who have children, and they say things like, my ACE score is an 8, but my kid's ACE score is a 1 or a 2. And like, we in our community, Black and brown community, have some stigmas about seeking out mental health. I think that is really changing right now. And I think that's great. I'll try to throw some resources at the bottom of the link. I'll also write this stuff down at the bottom of the link because I feel like I just did a bunch of rambling. Sorry. Anyways, yeah, that's all. So thank you so much if you survived this poor sound and probably poor visual video. I really appreciate it. Tune back in. I'll be doing another one real soon. Sankofa Podcast is my name everywhere. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. I think Instagram is probably my most used platform. And yeah, anyways, thank you.